What's happening, everybody? Hope everybody's doing okay out there in your little slice of the realm. I wanted to do a video sort of reflecting back of where I've been with boots on the ground 3 years ago, somewhere around that time frame. I first started putting videos on the old YouTube. I put together a compilation of about 20 different places of video and pictures that maybe I haven't shown before, some close-ups. I might get into briefly some of the history of some of these places. I've done videos on all of them. Some I'll label and some I'll just randomly go through certain pictures. I think it's good to take a look back from time to time. A spot here of just a glob of melted mess with this black staining obvious right here, and I'll get into a little bit more of that with a few other pictures. With each and every day just becoming more obvious of a cataclysm, it seems like it's changed from brick into rock. And looking at this stuff here, you have this insulation looking stuff around what's iron. Looks like it's been fried. This wall here, just a total transformation from brick to rock. They'll tell you that this stuff's just randomly thrown together because that's all they had to work with. Tons of bricks and then scraps of rock and block and slate and cooked out brick. The first area we're going to jump into is on Ruffner Mountain. It's a mining mountain facility, is what the narrative says. Around the 1880s is when they supposedly built these weird looking structures. But here, the internals and the externals definitely not looking like you would construct a structure. Everything seemed to be merged with the structures that are around on this supposed mountain. But you have 90-degree angles with narratives telling you that Mother Nature did all this, which looks like she's a pretty good architect with what we're seeing with our own eyes. The indoctrination era is over. I'm done with it. Just barely off the trail here, a blob of fused brick and mortar and whatever else together. Then all of a sudden you look down and is that nature or is that structure? I'd lean structure. And then you go from nature to wall to what exactly is that? Did they really build like that? Did weathering do that? I don't think so. Looks like the brick building has transformed to what we're seeing right here. It's created this effect. Now, could they have used some of these structures for the mining? Possibly. But I think most of it was not even used. Just pieces of randomly cooked out material. More stuff with 90-degree angles, stone, metal, everything buried. Buried from something we quite don't understand yet. And can you honestly understand the construction of what this looks like? There's some brick all in this, all intermingled. If you look really closely at this stuff, anywhere you go, something's not right. Something's not adding up. This was not constructed like this. Something that has just completely physically changed the structures into what we're seeing today. You can't logically explain this with any kind of the narratives that they give us. Sedimentary lines with blocks and bricks and just merged with these structures. And this piece here is just totally nuts. Like it's a blob of all kind of melted material together and changed. Metal, brick, mortar, all the above. Another supposed mining build there. Not sure what you're going to actually use this for, but looks very damaged. Then you step in the middle of nowhere to a supposed brick factory that was built in 1888. I'm going to do a more in-depth presentation of this place and do a lot more research on it. But just a crazy example of something that just supposedly got abandoned, and what we're seeing is just what's left over. How is this possible? Why does that look like that? It just eroded like that? Anyway, moving on, West Blockton Coke Ovens. Been here a few times. 1887 to build, before power tools. And just to give a reference, 1,217 people currently there. That was in 2020, I believe, census. But just the transitioning and all the different cooked out bricks. 400 and something coke ovens. Every single one of them looking different on the inside. A rainbow of colors, dripping brick transitioning to rock, to stone, to clay. What would cause this? Cooking coke? Where's the soot? The soot I see is transitioning brick to rock, to stone, to clay. Of course, no real evidence of any of this happening. One or two old pictures, and they're not even the same place. I can attest to that. Rows and rows of melted mess. Layers and layers of brick. Another place is just abandoned. Just up and left. And this is what you have left. That's the narrative. Getting a little sick and tired of these narratives. They're completely dumb because our eyes are not lying to us. These don't just transition into what we're seeing here. We're talking extreme heat to even melt brick. Up to 3,000 degrees, something like that. This is definitely something else. This is not throwing some coal in these supposed ovens and turning into coke for the production of iron. That's what they say. They also say they only used about half of the over 400 of these ovens. My guy was pretty happy to see me that day. He's probably lonely. But just an immense amount of brick. You can see what's happening here. You have obvious brick in these different stages. Nothing can explain this except some extreme cataclysm. There's your clay, from brick to clay to rock. Why would it just transform like that on the top? You're cooking on the inside. It just peels away to this dustified, electrified brick. It's transitioning right there before our eyes, from brick to rock. You would never just put that on top of that like that. You can see it. It's right there. Here is supposed hydroelectric part of a dam. What I'm personally seeing is a pocket of survival right here. It's looking like concrete, but down here, of course, you have some brick still merged with the structure. Here at Little River Canyon, you can see what's going on. Everything is completely melted down. You have 90-degree angles, and they'll tell you this is from millions of years of erosion. All Mother Nature. I'm not really sure how they got away with this long, but here we are, and here is a huge wall. Just off the trail. And they would tell you here that that's from Indian carving. They really thought that was necessary to carve those steps right there. Under the water, straight lines. Did Mother Nature do that too? Water just sitting there, and most of the time it's not getting hammered by water, but everywhere you look, it's just complete straight lines. Here we're going to cruise into the Tag Train Tunnel in Georgia, 1,600 feet long, 1891, and completed in 1 year, supposedly. But whatever on the history, supposed. We're just going to look at the bricks, and why is that on top? Why are those bricks on top? You see that completely melting over the bricks. No need for that up top. Inside the tunnel, now if I was a betting man, I would bet those were bricks that transformed. They're not sedimentary lines. Of course, this was supposed to be done before power tools. But the brick, you can see, is merged and changing. There's just a little pocket of survival at the beginning of each tunnel. But you go inside and you have these bricks that have just completely changed and cooked into different matter. You have thin layer of the brick. This thing was humongous. And why would you go like 20 yards deep with brick and just stop? Well, you wouldn't. A fine line between nature and brick and structure. It's all morphing and changing, melting, cooked out. That used to all be the same building, the same brick building. Quite the feat to burrow this 1,600 feet of rock out. But here, coming across this brick, goes up and down. I'm pretty sure that brick wasn't cooked like that as far as originally cooked and stuffed in there. It has changed from some kind of event. And that piece right there. Inside the tunnel is just craziness, jetting out. This is one of my favorite parts here. Looking up, I saw these bricks that look kind of flaky, and they just randomly came right off in 3 pieces. Put them down to take with me, but I ended up forgetting them. Another site here. This whole complete structure here was obvious brick. You can see the different changing. Here a piece could be some kind of metal, but the black staining, as I referenced before, on this smaller piece of cooked brick, and there's some more black staining. How did that happen? Why is that there? And there's brick, of course. And some pieces that I picked up that it's supposed to be brick right there. It was. Where are the geologists? Where are the archaeologists? Check this brick out. The whole shell of it, or the internals of the brick, are gone. It's just left with a shell of mortar. Limestone or whatever there to the left, sandstone. Complete destruction. Just off the side of the road. Why isn't the real scientists studying these things? Because they don't make sense. Let's dip into what's supposed to be 600 million years old, and it was supposed to be covered from the ocean. But what we see here are block lines, brick lines, structure lines on Mother Nature, 90 degrees. How does that happen? How would the bottom of the ocean cause this effect? It's complete structure, morphed and changed. It just screams melted. And these lines here, this building, tilted over, you could probably fit bricks in there. Again, Mother Nature doesn't do that. It's all melting on itself. Strolling in here, might get tired of me saying 90-degree angles, but they are everywhere. Under the ocean, millions and millions of years ago, with blocks and lines, and they dumb us down pretty good, don't they? Here I'm pointing at, you can see the straight lines, and this whole, what I call structure, has just blobbed, melted over onto itself. Look at that surprise. If you had a level, that thing would be level on top and on the side. Complete 90-degree angle. You can see that covering here. It's just totally melting on itself, re-solidified, and this is what you get. That's like a 40-foot drop or so. And just random, huge, dome-looking things melted. And then you find a brick. Oh, wait, that's 350 million years old. I'm sorry. Now, here's a lovely shot of the supposed furnace, 1862. And it supposedly turned into that, basically sitting there. Tons of bricks, the melting out, the different changing colors, almost towards like the coke oven effect. But why is this cooking on the outside of the furnace supposed to be on the inside as far as the cooking? But what we have here is just bricks changing the state of matter from whatever kind of cataclysm. This shot here is pretty incredible to me. You can just see the brick transforming, transitioning to what they call rock and clay. It's all right there. It is completely melted from under itself. Would be considered just a mound of dirt or clay if it completely melted down. Extreme amount of bricks. For the time, of course, 1862, and right there, it's right there. Brick to rock. And the middle of this thing is just completely melted down. That was all once brick right there. That was probably a 90-degree angle back towards the other side of the structure. Completely devastated. Iron, brick, mortar, you name it. Here, just in a basically ghost town in Alabama, those are fried bricks between iron, metal. Look what they changed into. Here's a shot of brick morphing, changing into slate. You can see it just go on down the line a little closer, and you can see that it was brick. It's just not piled up there together and morphed together. Crazy piece I saw just off the trail at another site. A big ball, and then it's got this almost 90-degree angle in the middle of it. Trying to figure out what kind of nature does this exactly. I'm not sure Another spot, bricks, definitely not looking like the other bricks around it. Very cooked. Changed. This spot here, obviously brick that has cooked out internally. The internals have cooked out on some of these bricks, and that's a prime example right there, just in that single shot. But here, another area, looks 100% like a column. You can see those lines, but the main thing is the internals of it. We know that all the old world columns have brick. You can see the brick here. It's all mangled, twisted, and changed. The terracotta piping at another site, which was old world. And this is just insane. You can see all the brick. You can see the boulders, the melting over the brick changing into rock. And they throw you a stupid narrative on it and you don't pay attention. Different place here. Bricks are completely twisted to the right, to the left, melted, becoming a conglomerate. Structure or brick here, you can call it stone, brick, whatever, but notice what it looks like, fried. This is a bigger version of it right there. Just showing some examples, more examples of what the brick does. I mean, come on, these aren't natural bridges. Look at the designs. How does Mother Nature do that? It doesn't. More conglomerate of brick here, somewhere else, and you can see the outer layering of barely the brick left over. And let's compare brick. You got an 1846 brick here-ish is when the building was constructed around this area. And here you have a 600 million year old thing, whatever you want to call it. But you can see that that's almost the exact same thing, the outer layering, the insides of it. It's just cooked out brick, cooked out structure. This didn't happen over millions of years ago. Look, there it is again. What's the difference? I don't see a difference. There's a different piece there. It's not supposed to be millions of years old. Could be terracotta or something on top. But terracotta is made of clay and brick, which is brick, is what I mean. And there's just no difference in their narratives. And there's that piece again. I mean, they're all the same. They tell you different stories for different things when they're all the same thing. I want to thank everybody for coming by and listening to me ramble on about this melted, destroyed realm. Thanks for the support, and we'll